Hey everyone, Alexander Mathias here from saxophonemasterclass.com. Thanks so much for checking out this video today. In this lesson, I'm going to show you 3 ways that you can accelerate your technique on the saxophone. Now there's some simple exercises here and there's some more advanced exercises, but there's definitely something you can take away here no matter what level you are at on the saxophone. Now this lesson is actually taken from my Saxophone Success Path, which is a step-by-step path that I've created that takes you from learning the saxophone from absolute scratch to then advancing to learning your favorite songs, learning how to play by ear, learning how to jam with other musicians, and developing the confidence to play for friends and family and even to play in public as well. So I've had many students go through this Saxophone Success Path and exceed their goals on saxophone. It's completely step by step, so you don't get overwhelmed, you don't get frustrated, you don't get confused by the difficulties of the saxophone, because I show you every detail of what it is you need to learn in order to master the sax. So if this sounds like a path you'd love to follow, why not go and check it out inside my Saxophone Masterclass membership. You can learn more at saxophonemasterclass.com/membership. We only open a few times a year, but if you go to the website, you'll see when we're open for enrollments next. And you can join the waiting list to be the first to know when the Saxophone Masterclass membership is open. In the meantime, I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson and happy playing. Now before I get into it, give this video a like if you're a saxophone player and let me know in the comment section how long you've been playing for and which sax that you love to play the most. I've been playing for over 23 years now, and I think my favorite horn is definitely the tenor, and that's why I'm going to show you all these techniques on the tenor sax today. So let's get into it. The first pro tip that I want to tell you about is making sure when you're practicing scales, when you're practicing etudes, when you're practicing songs, to use a metronome while you're practicing. So I have a metronome here, it's called a Korg TM60, and it's also a tuner, so it's a really good combo tuner metronome. Also, if you have a smartphone, you can get a metronome on your smartphone pretty much for free. Just go in the App Store and look for a metronome. Also, I have a link to my favorite ones in the description of this video. So the reason why using a metronome is so important is that it helps you to work on your internal clock. Your rhythm and your time is so important when it comes to playing music, and the only way to work on that is to play to a metronome. So there's been times where I practice 7 hours a day, and for that entire practice session, I'll use a metronome the entire time. Now you don't have to do this for the entire practice session, but I do recommend at least spending half of your time in your practice session with a metronome. Now you can apply using a metronome to pretty much anything that you're practicing, whether you're learning songs, whether you're learning scales, whether you're learning solos. Whatever it is, using a metronome is always going to be important. So let me give an example of using a metronome while I'm practicing the G major scale. So the first thing you want to do is set your metronome to whatever tempo you want to work at. I usually start at a slow tempo like 60 BPM. That's 1 second per beat. And then I decide how many notes I'm going to play per beat. In this case, I'm going to do 2 notes per beat. So that was just me playing a G major scale, 1 octave, ascending and descending, playing 2 notes per beat. So this is really important when you want to improve your technique. You want to learn how to play evenly, you want to learn how to play in time. So I encourage everyone to get a metronome and start practicing your songs, your scales, or whatever it is you're working on to a metronome. So the second pro tip I have for you today is to practice without tonguing. So you should always be practicing your tonguing techniques, whether it's staccato, legato tonguing, subtone tonguing, whatever you're working on. But you should also practice your scales legato without tonguing at all, like this. Now the reason behind not tonguing any of the notes is to really show you how good your technique is and how good your dexterity is at playing the scale or whatever exercise you're working on. When you tongue every note, you're actually masking your technique a bit. So it's going to be a lot harder to play everything evenly and in time when you're playing legato. So whenever I'm warming up, whenever I'm practicing, I always play legato before I work on my tonguing techniques to make sure I'm focusing in on my fingers and making sure they're warmed up. So my third pro tip is to be creative. So what do I mean by that? I mean, when you're practicing scales and you're practicing to a metronome, you're practicing exercises, you're practicing tonguing techniques, you're trying to work on your muscle memory for your embouchure, for your fingers, for your breast support. There's a lot of focus required to do all of those things. So you take some time out to focus on being creative with the exercise. So let's say I take that same exercise I did. I played G major, legato, 1 octave. You play that exercise as best as you can with a metronome up and down, but then you try to be creative with it, like this. So there I'm just playing around the G major scale, but I'm still playing it legato, and I'm just trying to be more creative and more fun with it. And this is really important to do because it really helps to solidify the technique that you've been working on. So this is what I really like to do when I'm focusing in on an exercise or a technique or a scale. I'll always take a moment to be creative with it and try to have fun with it so I can really see the fruits of my labor. It can get very frustrating when you're focusing on something so much without seeing the application of that technique or exercise and seeing how it really improves your playing. Let me give you another example. Maybe I'm working on G major in triads like this. Now after I've worked on that for 10 minutes and I've got it perfect, I might take a minute to just be creative with it, like this. So I'm trying to be creative there. I'm trying to introduce what I was working on with the triads over G major. In fact, I only focused on G major the entire time. Now, I didn't play everything legato like I did with the triad exercise, but I was trying to introduce the triads I was working on into the improvisation so I could have more fun with it and see how I can apply all the techniques I'm working on. So that's my 3 pro tips for improving your saxophone technique. I really hope you found those helpful. So let me know what you think of these techniques in the comment section of this video. And if there's other things that you work on to improve your saxophone technique, I'd love to hear them. Alright everyone, I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. Remember, this is part of my Saxophone Success Path, which you can get inside the Saxophone Masterclass membership. Just go to saxophonemasterclass.com/membership to learn more about that. And not only do you get a curated path to follow with hundreds of lessons and videos and PDFs and audio files, but you also get feedback from me personally as you're working through the Saxophone Success Path. So you're never lost, you're always getting feedback, you're always getting constructive criticism as you're working through the curriculum. Not only that, but there's also an incredible community inside the membership which you can share your progress with, ask questions, share your journey, encourage and motivate one another as you're progressing and mastering the saxophone. So again, we only open a few times a year for new enrollments. So if you want to see if we're open right now, just go to saxophonemasterclass.com/membership. And if we're not open, you can just join the waiting list and be the first to know when we're going to be open for new enrollments. Alright everyone, I really hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you did, please like this video, please subscribe to my channel, and until next time, happy playing.